Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everyone. A good Monday morning to you all. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. If you'd like to text in any messages, feel free to do so. There is a flood warning still in effect for some of the listing area until 7 o'clock this morning, so that's expected to expire just under an hour from now. We'll have a look at that first alert forecast. Not a bad week, sunshine. God, if we had a full week of nothing but sunshine, and I don't even know how long, it seems
Don't
like.
jinx it, man.
Yeah, I've got through Wednesday, so I'm not sure what.
No, I think it's gonna actually really heat up at the end of the week. It's gonna be in the 90s.
So nice yesterday.
Yeah, it was, especially after it decided the monsoon.
Right. Sadly, I spent most of the day inside yesterday. It
Me
wasn't
too.
until I walked out to go fetch dinner that I thought, oh, I should have spent today outside. It was actually really nice, but yeah, did not do so. There was a campaign rally took place yesterday. Former President Donald Trump making what I think is a huge announcement. I mean, a really big announcement that could make a big difference. And it is something I suspect it's going to be interesting to watch how the media tries to handle this and whether the Democrats talk about it at all. But what Trump announced yesterday, we'll play the audio of this, is that one of his first acts as president is to stop the government from collecting taxes off tips. So if you are in an industry in which you get tips, hospitality, restaurants, bars, whatever it may be, right now, as it is, you know, that their tips are collected. Now, this didn't used to be, taxes are collected off the tips. And once upon a time, this wasn't as big of a deal as it is today, or I should say as impacting, because there was a time in which your tips were cash, largely. I know whenever I worked as a server years ago, virtually all of the tips were cash. And we were told at that time, oh, just put down whatever the ticket totals were, just put down 10%, which was usually less than what you actually collected in taxes, in tips rather. So it was a way we were told that as long as you just whatever the total tickets you had for the night, put down 10% and you'll be fine. And best I know, the IRS didn't come after anyone. And you know, how would you prove otherwise when it's all cash anyhow? Well, increasingly people are less likely to pay tips with cash. And in fact, there was a movement some time ago. And I say a movement, a couple of years ago, maybe even further back than that, somewhat viral it went on social media, this effort, this suggestion to people, pay your tipping in cash. That way the server does not have to report it. It was a way to try and help those that are in the service industry to keep a little bit of their own money without the government taking as much of it. And that has become something that is increasingly difficult for working people to do in the service industry because so much of it is recorded, because people just add tips to the credit card line, and so there is a listing, there is something that can be proven in terms of, all right, what did you actually make in taxes versus what is it that you're reporting, and so the tax implications on people that work in the service industry is much more real today than it was 20, 30 years ago. And so Trump making this announcement, I mean, that is, I think, that is a massive announcement. And this is where it can get interesting, a lot of people who work in the service industry are of a younger demographic. Now, not totally, but most of the time, if you go to a restaurant, your server is going to be somebody that maybe is in college or around college age. And that is a demographic, particularly females, that tend to lean more Democrat than Republican. And so here you have an industry that is a demographic that the Democrat Party really relies upon. And of course, they try to paint themselves as supporting the working person. And Trump is coming along saying, how about this? You don't pay taxes on your tips any longer. Now, I suspect what the Democrats are going to hope is that this gets largely ignored. The media doesn't even cover it because what are they going to do to counter it? I suppose the one thing that they could do is try and claim, well, he can't just unilaterally do that. That is something that he cannot just do on his own. Now, there are aspects of this that I think are worthy of exploration, and that is, and we what leeway or how much of that is something that the IRS itself can just do or be directed by the executive branch. You may recall that when Trump became president of the United States, one of the things that he directed the IRS to do is to stop penalizing people who did not buy into Obamacare. You may recall this was a big battle in which the Democrats' plan was to force you to either have insurance or to purchase Obamacare, and if you did not, they were going to take away some of your money in the name of a fee or a tax. It depended on whether they were in court or trying to market it. They would change the way that it was presented. But fact of the matter is, the IRS, you may recall, you would be asked those questions. Do you have Obamacare? Do you have insurance? And that was to punish people who did not have it or who chose not to get Obamacare. And Trump put a stop to that, say no more. So I think it is a question that does obviously need exploring. Does he have the authority as head of the executive to just tell the IRS, don't do this any longer? Does the IRS have that? Or is that something that Congress needs to do? We'll talk with Congressman Burleson about that a little bit later this morning and see whether or not that's something that he at this point is aware of. Like so many things in Washington, when you involve bureaucracies, there appears oftentimes to be a scenario in which nobody really knows the answer because we have veered so far off the path as to representation and the people who are making these decisions having a direct connection at the ballot box with us, and instead you have these bureaucracies that are able to make these decisions at times, and so sometimes nobody even knows, really. And well, I guess the courts will have to decide this. But I don't know that this is a battle that Democrats really ultimately want to be fighting against, and it's something that I hope that Trump really does push, along with some other things as well, including the fact that, those tax cuts that helped make this economy so strong under Trump are set to expire. And Biden has said he's going to he's going to make sure all of that goes away. So he couches it, of course, as taxes for billionaires, but we all remember being able to keep, or most of us anyhow, more of our own money, and the corporations, they were able to hire more, to pay people more. People were getting bonuses. And Biden has announced, if he gets reelected, then he's going to undo all of that. So just more punishment for the American people. We'll play some of that audio of Trump, plus more black celebrities coming out and endorsing Trump, or at least saying that because of this conviction and because of the lawfare against Trump, black individuals, black men in particular, are beginning to identify with Trump, which is something that Trump suggested. And of course, he was called racist for it, but it appears, at least according to some in the black community, he's exactly right. Look at the weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update. First alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Flood warning remains in effect for counties along and north of 44 until 7 this morning. Otherwise, a sunny day, 79 for a high. Clear 55 tonight, sunny 81 tomorrow, warmer on Wednesday, sunshine with a high near 86. Hey everyone, it is Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Well, with all of the recent storms, door knockers are out and about trying to get your business. And if a door knocker comes up and they try to get you to sign a contingency agreement, that is a good way to know that they don't have the best interest in mind, because contingency agreements are nearly impossible to get out of once you have signed one. So if you have roof damage or you think you have roof damage, go ahead and give Josh and the Pyramid Roofing Company a call today. Whenever they come out, they are not going to make you sign something to do a roof inspection. In fact, all of their roof inspections are free. And even better, they are not going to make you sign something to help you through that insurance process either. And that is because they genuinely want to help you. If you are looking for a roofing company that is going to be honest and transparent from start to finish, you have definitely found it with the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, if it is time to go ahead and give them a call, you can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Donald Trump in Nevada over the weekend holding a massive rally as usual. It was massive, and this is a state that Democrats have been winning. However, things are shifting in a very significant way. And among other things, Donald Trump made an announcement, and he noted that this was the first time the announcement was being made. Obviously, Nevada, Las Vegas, and some of the communities in Nevada, very big in terms of service industry. A lot of people whose income is largely reliant on receiving tips, and those tips, the government comes and takes, some of those tips from the workers. And Donald Trump making an announcement regarding that.
So this is the first time I've said this. And for those hotel workers and people that get tips, you're going to be very happy. Because when I get to office, we are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips. We're not going to do it. And we're going to do that right away, first thing in office, because it's been a point of contention for years and years and years. And you do a great job of service. You take care of people. And I think it's going to be something that really is deserved. More importantly, popular or unpopular. I do some unpopular things, too, if it's right for the country. I do what's right. But so those people that have jobs in restaurants, whatever the job may be, a tipping job, we're not going after for taxes anymore. This will be under.
How do you battle that if you are the Biden administration? It's. I think it's a brilliant idea politically, and I'm not opposed to it also. This is an administration that you just look at the approach. You have individuals that signed their name to a piece of paper agreeing to pay back loans they took out in order to go to college. Many of these individuals becoming six-figure income individuals. And in defiance of the Supreme Court, Biden, and he brags about this, Supreme Court can't stop me, I can do anything I want, forces other people to pay back that debt for those individuals. People like, guess what? Servers at restaurants. I would make this a very, very clear distinction if I am the Trump campaign. While Joe Biden is forcing servers and people in the service industry to pay off the student loans of individuals, some of which are making six figures, Donald Trump is eliminating taxes on tips for those individuals. This is the difference in approach. This is the difference between rewarding the elites and oftentimes the wealthy on the backs of the hardworking people in this country, many of which are single moms, while the Donald Trump approach is to help to some degree get the government off the backs of those people who are in the service industry. Two very different approaches. this is, I'm sure, to some degree, a broken record when it comes to people saying, well, this is how the campaign should run, and this is what I think will resonate. But this is the sort of thing that I think will resonate. What it is exactly he's going to do. And I think that there really needs to be a focus because on the tax cuts that we all got that will be expiring. And if nothing is done about this, in fact, to me, from a political standpoint, aside from the fact that it's just the right thing to do, it's crazy that Republicans haven't tried to extend or make permanent these tax cuts right now anyhow, knowing that either Democrats are going to have to go along with it or they won't. They'll block it and make that a campaign issue. The millions and millions and millions of Americans that already feel the pain, that already are, in very consistently, when polled, vast majority of Americans saying, yeah, life is harder now economically because of the Democrats, because of Bidenomics. And then to raise awareness that you ain't seen nothing yet, as if it weren't difficult enough. This administration is going to start taking more money out of your paycheck. And just aside from the economy overall, I mean, Republicans should be attempting to do this anyhow for the sake of Americans, the sake of what's right, the sake of the economy. But in all likelihood, of course, again, the Democrats would block it. And people need to understand, and obviously a lot of people do, but it really needs to be defined. The reason that we are in the economic conditions we're in, it's not by accident. It is not a coincidence. It's not chance that Joe Biden is president while these things are going on. It is because of very different and specific approaches in terms of dealing with people and dealing with their income. You have the Trump approach, which is to allow people to keep more of their own money and to allow corporations, companies, to keep more of their money, which they in turn invested back into the people. And we know this because that's exactly what happened 3-4 years ago. The Democrats like to present this myth that corporations, when they are given tax cuts, all they do is they put it in this big Scrooge McDuck-style vault and just stockpile it away, and that they don't actually do anything that's beneficial to the workers. Well, many of you know that that's not true. I mean, I remember we were almost laughing at one point at every single day, locally in the Springfield area, there were press releases coming from many of these businesses talking about the expansion, looking to hire new people, giving out bonuses, giving raises, doing exactly what it is the Democrats claim doesn't actually happen, but it did. Now, Nancy Pelosi tried to downplay it, claiming that, if you're some average family and you got a $5,000 bonus or maybe a $10,000 a year raise, that those were, quote, mere peanuts. And in her world, yes. But that's meaningful to us. You have that versus the Biden approach. Take more money away from you. Preparing, and again, this isn't a secret. He has said that he's going to do this. Raise all of those taxes back to at least where they were, and in some instances, higher than they were before Trump came into office. And you've got now Trump making the announcement that, and I guess he'll go to Congress for this, and I think Mike Johnson, if he was wise, would respond to this and say, yeah, this will be a top priority. As long as we retain control of Congress, we need to win the Senate, and this is part of our economic plan in order to bring back the Trump economy again. It is to continue to allow people to keep more of their own money, to prevent the Democrats from raising taxes on middle Americans, and relieve those individuals who work in the service industry of having to pay some of their tips to the government. It's just such a winning combination all around. And the thing is, everyone wins. People in the service industry win. The economy wins because that's more money in the private sector that these individuals are going to be able to go out and either put away for savings or whatever it is they're going to use it for. Maybe taking their children on vacation, which of course helps feed back into the service industry. Or purchasing, more clothes or putting it away for college. These are all positive things. It's interesting because when you hear the Democrats talk about defying the Supreme Court and shifting the burden of these loans to people who did not take them out, they paint this picture of the reason it's so wonderful is because the people who took the loans out aren't responsible for it any longer, this is good for the economy, it's good for them because they have money that they can now use for all these things that are needed. Oh, so that doesn't apply to people in the service industry? You want to juxtapose, again, a different approach. According to the latest research, 10,000 people in California had their jobs eliminated because of the $20 minimum wage increase. Now, you tell me which approach is beneficial not only to the economy as a whole, but to people in the service industry. The government artificially mandating businesses start paying more, which results in the elimination, 10,000 people in California losing their jobs, or the Trump approach where, hey, guess what? You get to keep all of your tips. The government is not going to come for them any longer. Do you think that that's going to result in any servers losing their jobs? No, it is not. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. All right, we have more winning on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Thunder Ridge Nature Arena. Actually, this is not text. Let's see what's even. Okay, this is a registration at ksgf.com. Some of these are text. Some of them are go to ksgf.com. This is a ksgf.com one. Pitbull and yeah,
Mr. Worldwide.
yeah, Mr. Worldwide and special guest T-Pain live Saturday, September 21st. At the beautiful Thunder Ridge Nature Arena, and you can win or have a chance to win a pair of tickets to the show by registering at ksgf.com. That's Pitbull and T-Pain. Your chance to win at ksgf.com. First Alert Forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. From Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Till 7 a.m., still flood warning in effect, counties along and north 44. Otherwise, sunshine today, a high of 79, clear 55 tonight, sunny 81 tomorrow, Wednesday, sunshine with a high near 86. In Nevada, at a campaign rally, President Trump announced that he was going to, one of his first efforts is going to be to stop the government, stop the IRS from taking tips from people in the service industry, whether hotel servers at restaurants, just anyone who gets tips. I suppose that this would also apply to hairdressers, anyone in that service industry. And I happen to think this is a fantastic idea. It also is going to help identify the difference in approach between the Democrat Party and Donald Trump. I suspect that this is something that the Democrats, they'll call it a ploy. They'll call it pandering. Call it whatever you want. The end result, should he get elected and succeed at this, is people that are in some of the hardest working jobs in the country just are going to have more of their own money. So you can call that pandering if you want. Meanwhile, when it comes to, quote, helping the working person, we all know what the Democrat approach is, and that is force the businesses to artificially raise the cost of having the employees. And I say artificially because it's not a supply and demand situation at play here. This is where you have people in government put on a ballot or activists that, well, how about 15 an hour or 20 an hour or whatever, just random numbers. And what does that result in? According to the latest numbers, approximately 10,000 jobs have been slashed as California fast food eateries, or just at the California fast food eateries after the minimum wage was hiked to $20. Gavin Newsom's law to pay workers $20 an hour went into effect April 1st, has apparently taken a devastating toll in the industry. And of course, who is it that ultimately suffers the most? It's the average working person. The California Business and Industrial Alliance said nearly 10,000 jobs have been slashed across fast food restaurants since Newsom signed California's Assembly Bill 1228 into law last year. To highlight what it says are the unintended consequences of the law, the California Business and Industrial Alliance has taken out an ad in Thursday's statewide edition of USA Today with mock obituaries of popular fast food brands. The organization's ad highlights multiple restaurants that have had to raise prices and lay off workers to stay afloat and in some cases completely shut down stores. The ad features news clips documenting changes made by brands like El Pollo Loco, Subway, and Burger King across the state. Quote, California businesses have been under total attack and total assault for years. The organization's president and founder Tom Monzo told Fox Business, it's just another law that puts businesses into further jeopardy. In order to offset the increased wages, several restaurant chains such as McDonald's, Burger King, In-N-Out raised prices, the New York Post reported Thursday. A California McDonald's franchisee criticized Newsom's minimum wage law in March, according to Breitbart News, saying the menu would be unaffordable if items on it were scaled to the updated wages. And as if that's not enough, you have some Democrats that are saying this isn't enough. You got Barbara Lee, who is pushing for a $50 minimum wage. In April, the outlet reported that fast food prices in California jumped during the 6-month period before the state mandated the $20 minimum wage, a study found. Meanwhile, another fast food franchise in the state, Harsh Gaya, explained that he was running to install kiosks at his restaurant to save money as the $20 minimum wage took effect. So in other words, replacing working people. The problem that we too often have is there are people who just love the idea of a magical approach, and when it doesn't work out, instead of making the number one priority figuring out how to do it right, they just double down. How many times have we seen this same situation occur again and again and again? Every time, whether it is a city like a Portland or a Seattle or a state like California that mandates the increase in cost for every employee, the same results occur. And you have an increase in pricing and oftentimes it's a combination of the two, as we're seeing with the fast food industry out in California, people losing their jobs. 10,000 people losing their jobs. If the Democrat Party really, really cared about working people, they would go, oops, that doesn't work. But they understand and they recognize, sadly, that this is the sort of pandering that works. And for them, their number one priority is to be in power because they are the good guys, and that's all that matters. And if that means 10,000 hardworking people lose their jobs, well, that's just a sacrifice some people have to make. Meanwhile, as if California doesn't do enough brilliant things, they're opening a free food market that costs taxpayers over $5 million. This is in San Francisco. A program costing taxpayers $5.5 million. The food empowerment market, because nothing says empowerment like creating a scenario in which people rely on somebody else to give them the basic needs like food. Empowerment isn't in any way, shape, or form in the mind of the left here we see. People actually learning how or becoming willing to take care of themselves. No, that's not empowerment. Empowerment is just saying, don't worry, we'll have all the food for you that you need. You don't even need to worry about taking care of yourself. The food empowerment market is aimed at easing burdens for food stamp holders who may run out of resources toward the end of each month. Jeffria Morris, who pushed the legislation through city government in 2021, argued that the market is supplemental and not meant to be the sole method of feeding people. Well, and I'm sure that's exactly how that's going to pan out. Again, these are people who live in the land of make-believe. Morris told local media this is a supplemental food source for food. Food stamps should be the primary source. What a dark dystopian acceptance of what they have created in California, in which they just recognize and accept that there is a significant portion of the population in which food stamps are their primary source. That is their primary source for food. This is what they've turned California into. No longer are food stamps for them seen as supplemental. That is the primary. And then we need to, on top of that, create another source of free food. Free to them, of course. It's paid for by the taxpayers. Morris says if you're having food insecurity, you're having other issues as well, and you need to be engaged with the services the city has put in place to improve your life and the life of your children. So again, in the minds of some people, life and quality of life improvement is not being able to take care of yourself. It's not being able to take care of your own family. It's not being some sort of productive member of society that isn't completely and totally reliant on government. To them, the greatest quality of life is just being 100% reliant on somebody else, not only taking care of you and feeding you, but making sure that your children are fed as well. In other words, you just do nothing other than act as if you're some sort of animal in a zoo and just wait around for somebody to feed you. And let me tell you what else this is going to do. The same thing that happens in every one of these Democrat-run cities when they make it more luxurious to be homeless. You are going to increase the number of homeless people. If you tell homeless people, by the way, if you happen to be in San Francisco, we're going to have a free marketplace, and you could just come in and get whatever groceries you want to. Now, of course, we ask that you do, honor the honor system here, and you don't take advantage of it. Well, of course, they're all going to abide by that. The idea that somehow this is going to diminish the number of homeless people, it is going to increase it. And it isn't so much that you're going to have people who are self-sustaining individuals responsible for themselves up and decide, well, I'm not going to work anymore because I can just go get food over here. But homeless people from outside of that particular area are going to start flocking to that area, because you are rewarding homelessness. As if that's not enough, we've got to take a break here. Massive California residential tower to offer homeless private rooms, gyms, cafe, and more amenities. A1 Custom Car Care, all of your car care needs pre-purchase inspection. This is extremely valuable. This is not the government-required inspection in order to get your vehicle license, making sure it's, quote, road ready. But what is it that you are purchasing? What is it? Has your car been in a flood? That's the sort of thing that Carfax isn't necessarily going to tell you. But when they get in there, and this isn't just driving around the block and say, well, it's pulling a little bit to the left, but that's just about it. Everything is okay. This is getting in there, getting in deep. One of the actual things that I really do like about how they do it as well is if they are getting in there and they are immediately, because time is money, right? They're immediately noticing some things that they feel might, that will need your attention. Like these are things that have to be fixed immediately. They're going to let you know when that occurs. So you can, if at that point you're like, no, I don't want it. They're not going to keep looking into it, costing you more money, because their goal is not to rack up that bill. It is to make sure that you know what it is that you're purchasing. So if they're getting in there and everything's looking A-okay, then they will continue to look into it and spend time taking things apart and seeing what it is you're purchasing, because the whole goal is to make sure you know exactly what you're buying. And whether or not you are buying something that immediately you're going to have to sink $3,000 into in order for it to be reliable, or if it's something that's in really good condition. A1 Custom Car Care, that pre-purchase inspection. Out in California, watching the Democrat economic policies in play, you had the estimates due just to the artificial raising of the entry-level wages out there for fast food industry, resulting in 10,000 people losing their jobs. You have San Francisco opening a city market, taxpayers footing the bill, $5.5 million, and I'm guessing that's for a year, or I don't know what, these articles oftentimes they'll just put a price tag on something, but they don't talk about the sustained cost. But it's just a market where people can come and just get free stuff, free food. This is supposed to help people. This in addition to the recent California plan in which they're giving alcoholics alcohol. The idea behind that somehow is that's going to keep them off the street. If you get them behind closed doors and start giving them alcohol, then it will essentially, it sounds like the goal here is to create an out-of-sight, out-of-mind situation. We'll get them behind closed doors. We'll get them addicted to us providing them free alcohol, and then maybe they'll stay off the streets. Of course, that won't work. But generally speaking, people on the left don't care if things work. A massive residential tower in California is set to provide homeless people with swanky new living space and luxury amenities, including a cafe, a gym, and a TV lounge. The 19-story tower, which is set to open this month in Los Angeles' Skid Row neighborhood, will provide sprawling views of downtown and the San Gabriel Mountains, the Los Angeles Times reports. Weingart Center Assistant Chief Executive and President Kevin Murrow told the outlet, "We're trying to make our little corner of the world look and feel a little better." Murray, who devised the plan, launched it in 2018 alongside the affordable housing developer Chelsea Investment Corp. The tower will become the largest permanent supportive housing project in Los Angeles. What do you think that's going to look like 10 years from now? I mean, can you imagine? It'll probably also become a safe haven for criminals because the left is never going to, it's a similar thing that we see occur with some of the detention centers under the Biden administration. If there was allegations of a rape occurring during the Trump administration, of course, you would hear the left and the media focus on it, highlight it as a result of the horrific Donald Trump border patrol or border policies. But whenever there are diseases and rapes and molestations that are reported, particularly with children under the Biden administration, it doesn't get any coverage because they don't want people to see the results. And I suspect we'll see the same thing here. It's going to be a haven for crime. People that are not held accountable. By definition, they're not accountable by themselves. In fact, they're rewarded or accountable for themselves. They're rewarded for not being accountable by giving these luxury condos And when it does turn into a place in which you have people that are victims of violent crimes, it probably, now it'll get some local coverage perhaps, but it's not going to be getting the national attention it should, because it might open people's eyes to the actual results of these sorts of policies. The 278-unit building will offer a slew of amenities in addition to a floor for caseworkers and property managers. The benefits include a cafe, a courtyard, a gym, an art room, a soundproof music room, a computer room and library, a TV lounge, and 6 large balconies. The first tower includes 228 studios and 51 bedroom apartments. Each unit will come with a television. The project is estimated to cost approximately $165 million and will receive financing from Proposition HHH, state housing funds, and $56 million in state tax credit. So in other words, taxpayers are paying for this. Each unit is projected to cost $600,000. $600,000. And do you know what this is going to do? It is not going to decrease homelessness. It is once again going to create a draw for the homeless to the Los Angeles area. And you're going to have turf wars. You're going to have people that are fighting. And I have no doubt that people will be killed. But again, results don't matter. And the people who end up suffering the most are the people that are told are the ones who are supposed to have their quality of life improved. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company Talk and text line 447 KSGF. If you do miss any of the show, we do have the on-demand section. Also, we're on Spotify, these other places you can listen to any of the show that you missed. Or you want to hear something again, pass it along to someone. We are also on YouTube. You can watch the show in addition to listening to it. That's sponsored by Springfield Wraps, who also designed the KSGF Studio News in 60 seconds. I'm Nick Reed. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Welcome to the show. There was an article about Narcissist Fest, a.k.a. Pride Fest, that took place in Springfield, and there was an interview with a parent who had his child with him, which the whole thing is, everyone's different. I don't even like to watch a television show that has inappropriate behavior on it with the girl child. I think everyone's different. Some parents, I guess, get off on that sort of thing. Some, it makes them uncomfortable to observe adult behavior with their child. So it's fully acknowledging it is beyond me to want to take one's child to something that is sexual in nature. I just don't understand that. I don't get it. That's me. But we've seen some parents want their kids to have pornography. They want other people's kids to have pornography. They want them to, they want to experience with their child adults acting in a sexual manner. Once upon a time, these people were called perverts. But today, they're called open-minded, I suppose. And a parent that was interviewed, the rationale for bringing his young child to an event with adult content is, quote, he needs to be exposed to everything that is out there. It's to everything. Prostitution. Has this father already purchased a prostitute for his son? Drugs? What sort of drugs? Well, now, not everything. Well, okay, then what? You know, too often we allow people to make these blanket statements, and then we just sort of accept it. If your rationale for anything is, well, there isn't a single thing that my child should not experience, that, quote, he needs to be exposed to everything that is out there. Everything, really? You know, part of being a parent is being a parent and having boundaries, because here's the thing about children. They don't know what's good, what's bad, what's dangerous, what's not. Raising a child is just that, raising the child, not, well, whatever the hell, just, everything. Everything's up for free, everything. Is the kid drinking already? Alcohol? I mean, that's a thing that is out there. Well, now that's not age appropriate. Well, wait a minute here. Many people feel that taking children to an event in which men are dressing as women in provocative and sexual ways isn't appropriate either. But when you say, nope, nothing's off limits for my child, does that mean nothing's off limits for your child? Or do you put limits? And if so, what defines those limits? But like I said, there's two types of parents in this world: those that do not enjoy viewing sexually explicit behavior with their child, and those that apparently do. And I don't understand the mindset of those who do. I plead ignorant to that world. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Latest news update. It clearly isn't a secret because there have been news stories interviewing the person and the child that Angela is reporting on there, and some of you may be familiar with him because he's one of our account executives, Jeremy Womack. When did you first learn that it was Jeremy? That for if you weren't listening to the story there, this was in Fair Grove, and you had an adult and his son. It would be Jeremy and his son that had gotten swept downstream and ended up. Fortunately, someone called 911. It sounds like they saw the headlights go down and under and called 911, which would eventually lead to their rescue. And so, did you? What were you just watching a story and then you saw that it was
Yeah, so
Jeremy?
I actually got tagged in the story because that road that he was on is actually the same road that my mom lives on. And I'm very familiar with how quickly that area floods. And if you are just not thinking and you don't realize, how much it's rained, it is very easy to just get down in that little culvert and then you have nowhere to turn around until, it's too late.
And it wasn't. I had a conversation with him about it yesterday, and this wasn't one of those situations where, I think I can make it.
Yeah.
It was dark, and he described it. It was just sort of weird and surreal. It was one of those deals where it was too late by the time he realized that there was water there. He said it was just almost like it looked like pavement, and then it was too late. And the next thing he knew, they were being swept downstream. Fortunately, his window was down to some degree, or he had started to put it down, I guess. I'm not sure the exact circumstances, because once they went into the water, it wouldn't go down any further. So he was able to crawl out, and he got the seatbelt off his son and pulled him out, and they went down about
Quarter of a
quarter of a
mile.
mile or so, and then there because the water level was so high, there was a giant tree that was normally on the shoreline, but was in the water, and that's what they were able to grab onto. And he said, at some point he could hear sirens and everything, and he thought, well, nobody. He said nobody knows, no one knows that we're here, but apparently someone saw and called 911, and he eventually would see flashlights, and he and his son, they were both screaming, trying to get attention because they thought nobody, knows, or we're so far down from where we even went in, they're not going to know where to find. And they didn't know. They went to that bridge, and they didn't see anyone, so they began a search, downstream. But he did ask that because he was very grateful for a number of the different entities that were part of the rescue. And he had asked that I thank Fairgrove Fire Protection District, the Stratford Fire Protection District, Ebenezer Fire Protection District, Springfield Mo Fire Department, Logan Rogersville Fire Protection District, Greene County Sheriff's Office, Missouri State Highway Patrol, Mercy EMS, and whomever it was that called 911. And he, was, as you can imagine, extremely grateful. Because not only him, but his son, who's 13 years old, was part of that. And so just extremely, extremely grateful for those that were part of the rest. Even once they found them, they threw them life jackets and lines, and it was still another 45 minutes after that before, because they were waiting
Right,
on
yeah.
water rescue, the proper equipment to be able to do it safely. And they felt, given where they were at when they found them, that they were safe enough there that they could wait until they were able to get the proper crew and equipment there in order to rescue them. But, like I said, they did give them life jackets and have them tie lines around themselves in case something did occur. That way they would, at worst case scenario, be able to pull them out. But yeah, I mean, he said it was pitch black. You could not see anything. And he was underwater much of that time. But
It was
yeah.
horrific.
Yeah, so I wanted to pass along, because he asked if I would pass along to thank you to all of those folks that were involved in their rescue, and again, the person who called 911, because had that not occurred, and the person didn't call 911, Lord knows how. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs that you hate to think about, but fortunately, this one turned out to, ultimately in the end, a positive. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed, and the First Alert Forecast, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. From Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Sunny, 79 today, clear 55 tonight, 81 tomorrow, Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86. There are a number of historical statues in Portland, including one of pioneer Harvey Scott and another of a white settler with his family. So, evil, clearly. They're being permanently decommissioned, according to local reports. The Monuments Project has been a long and complicated process, much like our nation's long and complicated history. And while this process has been lengthy, we're finally making progress, Portland Commissioner Dan Ryan said in a statement to KGW8 News. The elk is returning, the promised land is retired, and the presidents are getting repaired. Statues of former presidents, including Washington, Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, are being repaired and are slated to return to Portland, according to local NBC affiliates. Now, all of this is coming about because of Democrat activists that have destroyed them and teared many of them down. And so, of course, the decision then they were making is, okay, well, which one of these are we going to fix and put up? This is a further demonstration that if you are a Democrat activist, acts of violence and vandalism do work. This is why we increasingly see Democrat activists behave in this manner. After January 6th, we kept hearing that's not how you get things done. Well, it's not how you get things done if you are somebody who's conservative or a Trump supporter. But if you're a left-wing activist, that's exactly how you get things done because it works. This is a result of left-wing activists causing vandalism and saying we don't want these statues to be here because they represent the United States of America, which are horrific. And so you immediately have the people running left-wing cities, like in this case Portland, that are like, well, okay, well, we'll check this out for you, and then we will comply and not put back some of these statues. When you reward rioting, when you reward violence, when you reward vandalism, you get more of it. If, of course, you have to be a left-wing activist. Left-wing activism, something like this is called mostly peaceful. You can have billions of dollars worth of damage, which we saw, and there have been a few of these instances. One, and it started with the statues and flags, the Confederate flags, and left-wing activists did not like those things. So instead of peacefully petitioning or going to local governments and asking them to vote in order to remove these things, they start toppling them over. It was reminiscent of the Taliban. Whenever the Taliban took over in Afghanistan, they vandalized these things and demand that they be taken down. And immediately you had, for the most part, Democrat elected officials that said, how fast can we comply with your demands? And you even had some Republicans, I would note, Nikki Haley as governor, gave in at one point, removing some statue or something off the Capitol grounds and rewarding the rioters. The Summer of Love was about defunding the police. They wanted local communities to defund law enforcement. In order to get it, they began killing police officers, killing innocent civilians, and doing billions and billions of dollars worth of damage. Now, of course, we were always reminded these were mostly peaceful. Mostly peaceful. It's just a few bad apples. But you can't lay blame on the organizations, the people who are organizing these things, or the cause for any of this. But by the way, let's see how quickly we can actually defund police. And that's exactly what was done in a number of communities run by Democrats. They did exactly what the rioters demanded. Now, of course, you look at January 6th, and it's the complete opposite, where you do have vastly, mostly peaceful individuals, yet we're told, that's not the way it's described. No. It is the worst attack on this country ever in the history of the country. Worse than 9/11. And while with Black Lives Matter riots, where people actually were killed during the events, you had Kamala Harris out there raising money to bail these people out. Because it was a righteous cause. Sometimes you have to break things. Remember the no justice, no peace? No justice, no peace? Openly say, you don't do what we want, and we are going to continue to be violent. And Democrats encouraged it. I mean, we've played it before. It's like 10 minutes of nothing but audio clips of elected Democrats talking about saying, keep it up. Keep it up. From Nancy Pelosi to Kamala Harris. Now, on January 6th, in which no one other than a Trump supporter was murdered, the only life lost on January 6th in the Capitol that day, the vast majority of those individuals were waved in by law enforcement who opened the doors. Yet that, again, wasn't mostly peaceful, and they're still tracking those people down. Still, just last week, there was a grandfather, his son, I think some grandkids. He's a former NASCAR guy or something. It's a formerly of the race driving world, and he was arrested. They were rounded up. So there's a couple of lessons that we've learned over the last several years. One is that, of course, we do have a dual justice system. But it is, secondly, beyond that. It's how you get things done. And the message that is sent, the message that is reinforced, the actions that are rewarded. If you are a Democrat activist, commit acts of violence, make threats of violence, commit acts of vandalism, and you will, at least to some degree, get your way. And here out in Portland, Oregon is another example of that, where these statues that Democrat activists demanded be taken down, they took them down, vandalized them. They're like, okay. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Okay, let's see. A couple of things of interest here, perhaps. We got Pitbull at Thunder Ridge, along with T-Pain, Saturday, September 21st. And you can register to win. Go to ksgf.com and register for your chance to win tickets. Of course, you can purchase tickets should you not win them to see Pitbull and T-Pain, Mr. Worldwide, as Pitbull is referenced. We've been doing with the announcement of all of these different concerts at Thunder Ridge been giving you a chance to win all across the spectrum of different types of artists that are performing there, and we just recognize that this is the benefit, I suppose, of being a non-music station, is that it's not an audience that is only interested in one type of music. So, for example, if you got a country station, you're probably not going to give away Pitbull tickets. If you're a top 40 station, you're probably not going to give away tickets of some country artist because that's not your audience. But with this audience, we have a whole. I mean, there probably every single genre of music that exists. We have people, some are going to, some of you at least, be fans of, and so that really allows us to pretty much any of these concerts, regardless of the genre of music, be able to give you a chance to win tickets. So the latest, of course, Pitbull, T-Pain, that'll be Saturday, September 24th. Go to ksgf.com and register for your chance to win tickets there. I thought I'd share with you just because of the way it's written. I think many of you will enjoy it. And it's Derek Hunter. He is author of Outrage, Inc., and he has a piece titled "The Bidens Are a Horrible Bunch of People." And this is something that I think many of us have recognized, which is counter to the narrative that all of what we're observing within the Biden clan is the result of just a family that really loves each other. And if you look at the way that they treat one another, how they use one another, and how they talk about one another, which was something that was revealed through much of the communications released because of Hunter Biden's laptop. I mean, everyone has their own definition of love. But it just really doesn't seem like not only do they not love each other, they don't even like each other. And the piece that Derek Hunter has written really demonstrates that. And so I thought I'd share that with you coming up. Also, audio of an increasing number of high-profile people in the entertainment industry that are black that are coming out in support of Donald Trump. And as one may expect, the ex-Intel officials that were part of the laptop isn't real, it's all Russian disinformation hoax. Not only are they not apologizing, they're doubling down. And they are continuing with the QAnon-like conspiracy theory here that it's still Russia. It's still Russia. Russia is responsible for all the disinformation regarding the laptop, which is a little inconvenient because right now the government is arguing that is the conspiracy theory, as Hunter Biden is facing these criminal charges for falsifying that federal form regarding his drug use when he was trying to purchase a firearm. Evidently, the defense is he did not have the crack pipe in his hand smoking it when he said that he wasn't on drugs, and so that's why he was being truthful on the form. So evidently, in the only time that you would mark, yes, I am on drugs on the federal form to purchase a firearm is if you are actively at that exact moment smoking crack or injecting heroin or whatever your drug of choice is. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. All right, First Alert Forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Sunshine, a high near 79 today, 55 tonight, sunny 81 tomorrow, Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86. I thought you might like this piece by Derek Hunter. He's author of Outrage Inc., and he's got a daily podcast as well. And it lays out the argument that Bidens are just a horrible bunch of people, and I happen to agree with this. This is a family, when you read the communications between one another as they talk about one another, it's Jerry Springer stuff. They're white trash is what they are. They are the definition of white trash. Or, as Derek Hunter labels them, the Bidens are just a horrible bunch of people. History is full of horrible, evil people, he writes. Charles Manson, Adolf Hitler, Hillary Clinton. But only one of them comes from a family completely devoid of any member with any redeeming qualities. While that may seem a bit harsh on Chelsea, the truth is often harsh. With that in mind, we must acknowledge the unvarnished truth that is the Biden family that is atop that list. Is there anyone in that family who isn't repugnant? The only people associated with the family who run the risk of not being total sleaze and therefore run the risk of having any redeeming qualities are the two young women who are disconnected, maybe even excommunicated from it, Hunter's ex-wife and his youngest illegitimate child. Those two just happen to be the ones the rest of the family seemingly hold in contempt. First is Hunter's ex-wife, Kathleen. She ditched the Biden name soon after her divorce from the junkie, hooker-loving scumbag after he'd not only been cheating on her with prostitutes, but also her own sister-in-law. Gross. Speaking of the gross sister-in-law, Bo's widow, Haley, who got a surprise witness tampering visit from President Biden a week before testifying about how big of a sleazeball the man who got her hooked on crack was, just got remarried last weekend. I bet having to testify about stealing your dead husband's brother from your sister-in-law while smoking drugs, while he's screwing every hooker human traffic from Eastern Europe, while still picking the wedding rice from your hair is a healthy way to start a marriage. The whole Biden family should enter an endorsement deal with penicillin. Joe broke up Jill's first marriage. Jill was a willing participant. Then they both lied about it, which is an acknowledgement of their awareness of how gross they are. Joe showered with their daughter well past whatever very young age might have been considered appropriate, which screwed her up to the point that she had her own addiction issues, not to mention how disgusting this is. Hunter used his young cousin to try to procure women, as much as 25 years younger than he is, to, quote, get over losing his sister-in-law, the one he got hooked on crack and cheated on constantly, including impregnating a stripper and denying paternity for as long as it was humanly possible. Then Hunter fought to prevent the child from getting his last name, which is probably the best thing to happen to her in her short life so far. The family is sick. The family is perverted. This family not only shunned that little 6-year-old daughter of Hunter's, only ever acknowledging her once in a written statement, they never so much as said hello. They shunned Hunter's ex-wife too. Kathleen made the mistake of thinking she was part of the family, only to see her and her kids abandoned when Hunter went whoring and sister-in-lawing. According to Axios, once details of Hunter's piggish behavior during their marriage became public, the family privately blamed Kathleen for the details becoming public. More than that, quote, friends thought the Bidens were enabling Hunter's behavior by appearing more angry at the revelation becoming public than at Hunter for what he had done. I give you my word, as a Biden, the family is scum. Curiously, Joe, who is magically filthy rich after a lifetime in public service, doesn't appear to have helped Hunter pay the millions in child support he owed Kathleen, but he did dish him out a lot of cash for things like a $50,000 loan for the truck when he already owned 2 other vehicles. That $50,000 in cash loan is alleged to have happened when Hunter was a full-blown junkie, because everyone knows good parents give their strung-out kids sweaty wads of cash all the time, since getting them help is for suckers. You'd think they wanted Hunter dead. But for that, you'd have to believe that there was a loan. There's only the claim of a loan made after the discovery of a $50,000 check from Hunter to Joe the same day he received $500,000 payment from a Chinese investor. It's just a coincidence, I'm sure, that it works out to be 10% for the big guy. The whole Biden family's disgusting, beyond disgusting. But what do you expect from a kid-sniffing, credibly accused rapist who has the exclusive means to exonerate himself by releasing his Senate personnel records, now sealed, under his order, but won't? People with nothing to hide would not hide things long after death. At least no one with a Tara Reid in their past would. History will not be kind to Joe Biden as he has supplanted Jimmy Carter as the worst president in history, but it should also be unkind because he's a horrible person and the head of a horrible family. For that, history needs to accurately describe them as people and the things they did while they were alive. That, again, Derek Hunter pinning that piece, and I think that it's a good description. In terms of the behavior that he lists there, none of that is in dispute. There is not a thing in there that is even disputed. But we're told Donald Trump is somehow, I mean, listen, if a person wants to look at Donald Trump and say, well, he's immoral. 20 years ago, he allegedly had a consensual relationship with a porn star. How could any Christian support someone like that? Okay, if you want to take that stance, fine. But then how can you support Joe Biden? That's the part in which people who take that stance lose all credibility. If a person is going to claim for moral reasons, because Donald Trump in his behavior is immoral, I cannot vote for him, then you'd better sit out this election altogether. Because there is no one, certainly not Joe Biden, that you're able to vote for if you're voting based off those parameters. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Delta Roofing is sponsoring the Care to Learn this year that serves over 100,000 students, 40 school districts across Missouri, providing hygiene resources and other resources for a lot of local kids that may not have them. You can learn more about Care to Learn and make a donation, big or small, ksgf.com, the Care to Learn donation drive. That is, again, sponsored by Delta Roofing. Of course, many other things there at ksgf.com for you as well. Just to browse through, check it out. Check it out every so often. Ex-Intel officials double down on signing the, quote, patriotic letter against Hunter Biden's laptop, saying that those who don't believe it's Russian disinformation are woefully ignorant. Now, understand, this is the key piece of evidence that is currently being used against Hunter Biden. So we are these people, the 51 individuals from the intelligence community, past and present at the time, at the direction of the Biden campaign, signing this letter, trying to convince Americans that this laptop, it wasn't real. All of this was Russian disinformation, which was for two reasons. One, it was so people didn't believe it, but two, it was also then used as a tool in order to suppress the truth. This is what was used at every turn to block it off social media, to prevent media outlets from reporting on it by claiming that if you do talk about this, you are aiding the Russians in trying to disrupt our election. When we learn, of course, it wasn't the Russians that were trying to disrupt the election. It was these individuals in coordination with the Biden administration or the Biden campaign that were trying to artificially alter the outcome of the presidential election in favor of Joe Biden. Dozens of former intelligence officials who signed the letter warning that that was just Russian disinformation are either declining to retract or doubling down despite the device being entered as evidence in his ongoing trial. Fox News Digital reached out to all 51 individuals who signed the heavily scrutinized October 2020 letter published just before the election, asking if they regretted signing it now that the laptop is being used by the prosecutor arguing Hunter Biden committed a federal gun crime. Former Obama Director of National Intelligence James Clapper said no. Mark Zaid, an attorney representing signatories Ronald Marks, Mark Palamopoulos, Douglas Wise, Paul Colby, John Cipher, and a whole listing of other people, put out a statement on behalf of his clients doubling down on the importance of the letter, claiming it was patriotic to sign it. There continue to be by many, a calculated or woefully ignorant interpretation of the October 2020 letter signed by 51 former intelligence officials concerning Hunter Biden's laptop. He said, a careful and objective reading of the document reflects that even today, its content is accurate. It served as nothing more than a warning letter of what we have known for decades. Certain foreign governments, including Russia, continue to try and actively interfere in our domestic affairs, and our guard must remain vigilant. Every patriotic American should have signed that letter. Greg Treverton, a signatory who previously served as chair of the National Intelligence Council, defended the letter in a statement saying, "This is very old news. What was said was true. We were inferring from our experience, and it did look like a Russian operation. We didn't and couldn't, of course, say it was a Russian operation. Enough said." Now, of course, none of this adds up, and we all know what this was about. It was a disinformation operation by these individuals because they wanted to see Joe Biden be president of the United States. This is why it was Anthony Blinken who spearheaded the entire thing, who was at the time working for the Biden campaign. I mean, that by itself, this wasn't something that organically came up. It's something that was concocted by the Biden campaign, just like Hillary Clinton concocted the fake Russian dossier. You have these people that are either currently or formerly with intelligence conspiring with these Democrat campaigns in order to try and prevent the American people from ultimately deciding whom it is that's president of the United States by spreading disinformation. With Hillary Clinton, it was spreading the fake dossier around. And when it came to Joe Biden, it was taking something that they feared might make the American people look at the Biden campaign, because the Biden campaign, of course, Donald Trump is bad, Donald Trump is evil, and the Bidens were going to bring stability and the adults back into the White House. And so anything that might make the American people go, wait a minute, that doesn't seem very good. For a campaign that is trying to convince us Donald Trump is corrupt, these things here don't look so positive. They don't look so good. And so they were doing everything they could in order to prevent people from knowing about it. Now, they try to get a little cutesy here in arguing that, and some of them have as much as said this in the past, well, even though the laptop was real, that doesn't mean that Russia wasn't using it in order to try and harm the Biden campaign. Well, what difference does that make? So if it is, if it is information, because you look at it up to the Clinton campaign, right? For the Clinton campaign, they make a fake dossier that we're told is from Russia. That it was a dossier that was crafted by the Russians. Now, we were supposed to vote based on that information from Russia, right? That effort to try and prevent Donald Trump from becoming president by putting out this dossier out there that we're told was from the Russians, that the Russians had on Donald Trump, that information from Russia we were supposed to take into consideration. That information we all were supposed to have and use that to weigh whether or not we wanted Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump to be president. But whenever it comes to Hunter's laptop, which wasn't Russian in any way, shape, or form coming from Russia, they claim that it was, and all of a sudden, we weren't supposed to take into consideration information that was, they said, provided by Russia, but we were supposed to do the opposite and ignore it, suppress it. We were supposed to do everything we could to make sure that Russia in no way, shape, or form interfered in our election, which is the exact opposite of what we were told when it came to the Russian dossier. That, of course, was fake. Everything is upside down with these people. We were supposed to vote against Donald Trump based off Russian information that actually was fake. But real information that wasn't from Russia, but we're told it was from Russia, when it comes to Joe Biden and that campaign, we aren't supposed to listen to that. Some of these people are still paid by outlets like CNN as experts. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Wilder RV at ksgf.com under Nick's endorsements or wilderrv.com. It's just north of Springfield on 13, 85 miles. Just over an hour to get there. Well worth the drive. Those of you, I know some of you have purchased RVs from Wilder RV or at least checked them out, and I love the feedback. I always love feedback for any of our partners, whether I talk about them personally or not. It's just always good to hear about those experiences, whatever they are, if it's a positive experience or one that isn't. So much positive feedback regarding Wilder RV, and this is why people from all over the country purchase their RVs at Wilder RV. They're not high pressure. They're not there, it's not numbers. All right, everyone, how many sold this and how many sold that? We got to, and where they're all sitting around and they see you walking in the parking lot and they're all making a beeline for you as quickly as possible. It's not how they work. Frankly, they don't have to. They don't have time for that. You head up there. Now, they probably will out of the gate. They'll say, all right, what are you looking for? Have you owned an RV before? Is it just you, your dog? Is it you by yourself? You got a family? All right. That area way over there or right over here, wherever it may be on their massive lot, check those out first because that's probably going to be in line with what you're looking for. And by the way, they're not going to follow you around with keys to let you in because they're all locked. You can go in, check them out yourself. That's the level of service and no pressure you get with Wilder RV. And transparent pricing as well, financing. You can see all that at wilderrv.com. Coming up in the upcoming hour, I want to play a couple bits of audio for you, and we're seeing some of a shift in support for Donald Trump publicly, and this has to be discouraging, perhaps even panic mode for the Biden campaign. Silicon Valley, which has long, particularly since the Obama era, been seen, and they have been very actively left-wing, increasingly are coming out publicly for Donald Trump and throwing fundraisers for him. And they're openly saying, yeah, no, we've got to go back to the Trump era. In addition to that, you have individuals that are in the black entertainment community. Sometimes they're rappers, sometimes they're models, artists, singers. You got all different walks of life, but entertainment industry, so that they are listened to, they're talked to by TMZ, and increasingly they are saying we're not brainwashed by the left anymore, and we're supporting Donald Trump. And while this isn't a representation of a majority of those in the black community, the fact that these influencers are beginning to come out and openly talk about this stuff has got to be worrisome for the Biden administration. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Odds are, if not you, someone you know, someone you may even care about is going to need someone to help them sell their home or perhaps find that new home, be it for you or for that someone that you know. Recommend Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. I recommend her. Sarah recommends her. You see so many. What? Oh, sorry, I didn't.
She's awesome.
She is awesome. She's fantastic, and all one needs to do is read the reviews, and you can tell when you read the reviews on social media or in the review area of her Zillow site or wherever it may be. These are very specific in their reasoning for recommending her. And that is a level of authenticity you don't always. It's not just the, oh, she's great and did a great job. I mean, people go into detail because of their experience, and that's what you get with Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. So whether you're buying or selling, or sometimes navigating both, you found that home, but that deal is contingent upon your home selling within a certain period of time. That can be very, very stressful, and you can be in no better hands than Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, when it comes to any and all of those needs. Or just if you have any questions, reach out. She's more than willing and happy to be a resource for you, even if you end up deciding, nope, selling my home is not what we're looking to do right now, or, well, we've decided not to seek out a new home at this time. She's cool with that. Use her as a resource. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Increasingly high-profile individuals in the black community, specifically entertainment, are willing to publicly either state their support for Donald Trump or discuss why it is that so many others, particularly black men, are supportive of Donald Trump. And we're seeing that clearly there is a concern here by the Democrats, because they are already beginning an effort to demonize these individuals. You have some that are left-wing activists, also entertainers, that are trying. They're essentially bad-mouthing black men who support Donald Trump as toxic masculinity. As well, they're just drawn to Trump because he's got this toxic masculinity, and that appeals to some black men. And so, as usual, this is what happens with the left. They turn on their own alliances if those people within the alliance dare have a diversity of opinion. They don't try to win them over. They don't try to explain to them, hey, here are the policies that we have in place, and look at the areas of the country where we have control and how much better the black community is in terms of quality of life versus areas of the country that aren't run by Democrats. Or, they don't do any of that. It is name call. There's a number of different, you hear Uncle Tom, there's a number of different variations in which they essentially publicly flog those who dare speak up. And this is happening with an increased frequency, which tells me they're very concerned about this. They're losing control. TMZ recently tracked down a gal, she's an artist, model, by the name of Amber Rose. And they tracked her down because she posted a picture of herself with Donald and Melania Trump. She has 24 million Instagram followers. She has traditionally been a left-wing activist, participated in different feminist marches, feminist activities. She's not somebody that you would look at and, based off of the things that she's been involved in the past, go, well, that makes sense. So she was tracked down. She's walking through the streets, TMZ, which is an entertainment. They cover entertainment news. And they ask her about her support for Donald Trump.
People were shocked with your, endorsement of Donald Trump. I mean, you're all about women's rights issues. I mean, what was the reason for the big change?
Is Donald Trump not for women's rights issues?
I mean, I guess a lot of people were
He's
asking.
trying to make America great again. That's for women too, right?
That's true. I mean,
okay. So there you go.
I know. Does him getting convicted change the way you view him?
Not at all.
I mean, do you think it'll help his chances getting reelected, or you'll hurt
I think it
him?
helps him more. I think it actually more. Yeah, absolutely. I think people see the injustice and what happened, and they want to vote for him more than ever.
I know. I wanted to ask you. So it seems like a lot of celebrities are kind of like voting for Trump now. I mean, why do you think people are kind of like changing their way of like?
I think we just did our research and we're just, we're not brainwashed anymore by the left. I can say that about myself. All these years I've been brainwashed and I'm not anymore. So.
All right, so that is one of the latest. I'm going to play some additional audio coming up. There is a consistent response that oftentimes occurs when these high-profile individuals, regardless of their race, but that have traditionally been in the camp on the left just because culturally their entertainment industry oftentimes, when they come out and they start expressing support for Trump, or at least expressing that they're open to Trump, when they're asked why, they start talking about meaningful things. Now, of course, that was just a 90-second exchange, but if they sit down for any interviews, it's a setting in which there is an opportunity to actually articulate beyond just a 90-second exchange on the street. They talk about things like, that are meaningful things, and largely around the economy and the border and so forth, which is much different than what people on the left generally say in terms of why they are supporting Joe Biden. And it's just a bunch of hysterical name-calling because Donald Trump is Hitler. Donald Trump is going to start throwing people in. They start making these claims that Donald Trump will do if he's president, even though he never did any of those things when he was president before. You're supposed to forget all of that. You're supposed to forget that he actually was president and lived in this land of make-believe of all the things that he will do if he's president that aren't based on any sort of history or reality, but just fear, but this is because they can't argue that life is better under the policies of Joe Biden. They've tried, again, to use John Legend as an example, saying that black people need to stop misunderstanding the economy, that actually the economy is doing wonderful for them. And for somebody like John Legend, yeah, it's fine. I mean, the uber wealthy, they can afford to be progressive whenever you have 10,000 jobs eliminated because of California laws and minimum wage, or you have, just average people. Their savings are being diminished greatly, their quality of life going down. That does not affect people like John Legend. That does not affect people like George Clooney. It doesn't affect those massive people. So they don't understand what everyone else is going through. And whenever you have individuals that do try to explain it, they ignore them and tell them, no, you're wrong. They sit around and they scratch their head saying, I just don't understand how anyone could support Trump. And then they start listing the reasons. Well, the economy was better under Trump. Gas prices were lower under Trump. The border was more secure under Trump. We had, peace breaking out in the Middle East under Trump. No, you're wrong. That, those things don't count. Well, why are you asking if when you're told the answer, you just pretend it as if it's not true? The right has long criticized the left for being the party of the uber wealthy celebrity. And some may say, well, it's hypocritical in order to sort of celebrate when these celebrities are coming out for Trump. And it's not a matter of celebration. It's a matter of listening to the reasons that they give. And hearing that they are giving real reasons, not name calling, not, to save democracy or, and not that those things don't come up, because lawfare is something increasingly many of these individuals are talking more and more about, particularly in the black community, that they are watching the justice system be used against Donald Trump in the way many of them perceive as black people they have also been subject to, which is something, by the way, Donald Trump has in the past realistically said could potentially help him with the black community. He was called racist for it, but you hear that with many of these individuals. In fact, I'll play 50 Cent. Coming up in comments he recently made, I think it was to a CBS reporter. He was up on Capitol Hill visiting with lawmakers, and he was asked about his support and where it is, and the context, being Donald Trump, of course, because that's why these questions are always asked. So that audio is coming up, and it's more disturbing, responses in terms of the Biden campaign, what they clearly are finding to be disturbing. Weather here in just a moment. The Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line 447 KSGF. Now the latest news update. First alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Sunny, 79 today for a high 55 tonight. 81 tomorrow, Wednesday, sunny with a high near 86. Streaming live, KSGF.com, and Congressman Burleson joins us this morning. We're talking about, or what we have been talking about, I've been playing audio increasingly, people that are in the entertainment industry, well-known influencers that are African-American are increasingly coming out and supporting Trump. But before that, I just want to get some of your thoughts on that. Donald Trump was in Nevada. And while there, he announced that if he becomes president, he is going to eliminate the taxing of tips for people in the service industry. Now, I think that this is a fantastic move economically and politically, because you juxtapose that between the two campaigns. On one hand, you have the Biden administration that is forcing servers to pay for student loans of people who are making, some of them, six figures, while Trump's approach is to allow them to keep all of their tips. Now, of course, I saw that a culinary union, which unions are not there to represent workers. The head of unions are there in order to get the vote out for Democrats and to fundraise for Democrats, but saying that, oh, this is just a ploy. This isn't anything that's actually meaningful. This is just some ploy from a convicted felon, and the service industry is filled with people who are smarter than that. Now, I don't think that when it comes down to it, that is going to be a winning message. But nonetheless, just your thoughts on that whole approach. And I guess that would require Congress to cut that from, in terms of taxes, and whether or not you even know that at this point, because I know the IRS is given some leeway there, though they shouldn't have it, to do things like that. But your thoughts overall?
Well, good morning. I think that it's politically, there's a difference between what I think politically and what I think as far as what's best public policy. I think anytime you're going to cut taxes is a good thing, okay, in general. But I also think that it's better to cut taxes across the board and not to do so in favor of one profession or one individual or one group over another. Because it causes gamesmanship to happen within pay schedules. And but at the end of the day, it's a good thing to cut taxes because, and I say that because people always ask me, how are we going to slow this growth of government? How are we going to stop government? Well, one way that you do it is you starve the beast. You starve it. You shrink it down to as small of a level as you possibly can. And that's how you reduce the size and the power of government. So anytime you can do that is a good thing.
Well, and I know where you're coming from, and I agree. Though, and this will be something for me to think on, I do see it as a bit different than picking out just certain grouping of individuals in the sense that it's a different form of income. So, for example, capital gains is, a form of income, if you will, and that's taxed differently than income tax and these things. And so tipping is something that I see as different than income. And so that it would apply to anyone that receives any sort of tipping. And so to me, it's more about the form of income than the individuals themselves. But I understand exactly what you're saying. And I tend to agree with that, but my perspective on it is that it's about the form of income, not the people. Now, I am going to be interested to see. Well, I mean, the union, that culinary union, saying that this is just a ploy. But is it something that would require Congress? And I ask that because I remember when Trump was president, if I remember correctly, the penalties that the IRS would put upon people if they did not have health insurance was something that, if I remember correctly, he put a stop to. He told the IRS stop that, and they did. So with this, I didn't know if it was something that would require Congress. I mean, it seems like it should, but I'm not sure the answer to that.
Yeah, I think that certainly there's some discretion that the president might have. He probably knows. He's probably been briefed on this. So I don't think that Trump would just make the allegation or make the claim without having some strategy in mind. But we're at a really bad place in America in general, in that Congress, basically all of our powers have been given over to the executive branch. So I'm kind of going to fall back again. The ideal scenario would be that Congress should take the direction from the president and decide if we're going to do that and how we're going to do it, and then pass a law and change the federal code. And then the president should execute what we pass. That's how it's supposed to work, but that's not how it's been working the last few decades, and it's not how it works today. So, if Joe Biden can go and give, as college students who took out huge loans irresponsibly, and if he can use his executive orders to say that I'm going to forgive all of this debt, basically that's the new era. That's
well, and from sure, and I'm with you. Not the way that it should work. I don't like it working that way. But from a political standpoint, it is juxtapositioning those things is such gold, because you can have Trump, telling those people while Biden is forcing you to pay for the loans, or to argue if Biden can force you to pay for other people's student loans, I can allow you to keep more of your own money. If he can use his executive power to do that, then I can use it for this reason. And again, though it may not be in any way, shape, or form how we are supposed to run things, at some point, I suppose you could argue it should be used to your advantage, politically speaking. Your thoughts on the rescue of the hostages? There, of course, like most things involving Israel, there are those who their knee-jerk reaction is to find the bad in it, to try and get people to focus on the bad in it. Kamala Harris getting a lot of coverage for, of course, lamenting the innocent civilians who died in it. The problem, of course, in Gaza is a lot of these people that we're told are innocent civilians are people who are helping the terrorists. They are conspiring with them to hold these hostages. And so it becomes very difficult to distinguish between what are really truly innocent civilians versus those that are civilians that are helping, and versus those that are helping because they are afraid of what will happen to them if they don't. But the overall picture of that rescue, your thoughts?
I was encouraged to see those rescued, although I would love to see more rescued. It's encouraging. I would say that I mean, imagine you're in the shoes of Israel. You're being attacked. Your people are being killed. They're being raped. They're being kidnapped, and then they're being held behind civilians as a defense. But the truth is that the civilians of Palestine, Palestinians, are giving their imprimatur, their consent to Hamas to do these things. If they don't want this to happen, if they don't want to have continuous war and to be used as shields, they need to address Hamas. They need to turn. If I were in Gaza, if I were a Palestinian, I would say I would turn on the people who are causing this conflict and say, stop using us as a shield. We're going to eliminate you. We're going to find a way to save these, to release these hostages so that the bloodshed can end. And look, Israel's doing as surgically strategic of a job as they can to try to go in and make sure that they have as little outside deaths and injuries as possible. In fact, the data indicates that this is the most successful urban combat in the history of the world when it comes to civilian casualties. The success rate of Israel right now in this region, in this war, is much better than the United States had when we were in Afghanistan and we were in Iraq. So we really cannot be the pot calling the kettle black here, particularly when Israel is. Some of the people that they're trying to rescue are our own U.S. citizens. They're risking the IDF. They're risking their lives, their reputation, their dollars and resources to rescue not only their people but U.S. citizens. And we should stop criticizing them and help them.
Talking with Congressman Burleson. I want to jump back. We're talking about taxes, and there is some very problematic economic problems on the horizon in addition to what already exists if the temporary tax cuts that were put into place under Donald Trump go away and increase our taxes. And to me, this seems like a no-brainer thing that Republicans in Congress should be working on right now to extend them, to make them permanent, so that if anything, when it comes to election time, people understand that this is an issue that's going to come up, that it could very well, depending on who wins the presidency, will define whether or not we are allowed to continue keeping the amount of our money that we keep, or if taxes are going to go up on everyone from businesses that do the hiring to middle-income Americans. But for something that is such the economy always vying for number one. It's either the economy or it is the border that are the number one issues for the American people. And the fact that this is not being talked about, that there's not any sort of effort to address this now, so that, again, if anything, people understand what is at stake for the next presidential election. I just don't understand what's going on here.
Yeah, the way that we get ourselves into the fastest growing economy that we once had is to stop the federal government spending, okay? And that will slow down inflation. And in fact, if we truly balanced our budget, we would probably see inflation go to zero on the federal level.
Yeah.
So there's that. If we could cut taxes on the American people, they would grow the economy. People would go out and buy more. More homes would be built again. And I honestly think that, if we can just, again, starve the beast and stop the growth of government, and I think Donald Trump wants to do that, especially this time around. I think that he's not going to have to worry about I think his first 4 years he was worried about getting reelected, and therefore you don't want to do anything too drastic and make too many cuts. But I don't think that that's going to be the case in Trump 47 years. I think that he is going to be freed to, for example, the FBI, I don't think they're going to get their new building when Trump walks in the door. And I think that you're going to see a lot of these agencies that have been part of the swamp eliminated. When Trump, and what they're trying to do right now is stop him from making these cuts by categorizing all of these classes of employees as basically protected, that they can't be fired. And I think Trump has got some strategies around how to get around that. So
I wanted to ask.
I can't wait to see Trump 47.
And want to ask a question, because somebody had texted in earlier, and we've talked to you about the time that you went over and spent in Israel, which is obviously important in terms of, I suppose, fact finding, given our alliance there and funding and so forth. But then we also at times hear about travel, in other parts of the world by members of Congress. And they had asked the question, how does that get paid for? And I suspect a lot of it's part of congressional duties, and so it's taxpayer dollars. But sometimes you kind of get the impression that it's not taxpayers. So how does that work?
Well, there's two different types of trips that you can do. You can have the money raised privately and do it through like a nonprofit or a group like that. Now it can't be political and advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be extremely educational. And that's the route that I took with Israel. The only two trips I've taken have been to the southern border and to Israel. And I think that I really weigh heavily whether or not
right.
My constituents would see that it's important for me to be there. And I feel like seeing the southern border firsthand and seeing what's going on in Israel and that conflict directly, I feel are a responsible action.
Congressman Burleson, as always, it is a pleasure. Appreciate your time with us this morning, and talk to you next week.
Yeah, have a great week.
All right, you do the same. Thank you, sir. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. That's right. All of those home loan needs. I want a greathomeloan.com because, of course, you do. Now, you can just get the the rates and the terms and all of that from a lot of different places. But if you want somebody that is going to help navigate a crew of people, a group of people that have developed a process that is to make it as easy and stress-free as possible, then you want to start at iwantagreathomeloan.com. You're going to enter some basic information, and then someone from the team is going to get with you and maybe ask some additional questions and make sure that you get kicked off as you know, in terms of the process, as quickly and easily as possible, because it can be confusing, it can be stressful. They're there to take all of that burden off you. iwantagreathomeloan.com, because you do. KSGF.com, you can go there for your chance to win tickets to see Pitbull with special guest T-Pain Saturday, September 21st at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena. Also details on, we've got a number of sponsors for Care to Learn. A1 Custom Car Care also sponsoring the Care to Learn project, and you can make donations, big or small, ksgf.com, with the Care to Learn donation drive. That is A1 Custom Car Care, one of our many partners that are responsible for that. I do want to play coming up the audio I mentioned earlier with 50 Cent. He is another celebrity, if you will, that is of the black community who has talked openly about perhaps supporting Trump, or about how other black people are also supportive of Trump and the reasons why. We earlier played Amber Rose, who's a celebrity, 24 million followers on, I think it's Instagram, and she was asked about why is she, a lot of people are surprised, you're a feminist. She says, what, Trump's policies don't support women? I mean, when everyone benefits, women are part of that as well. And she argued that I was brainwashed. I was told, you're black, that means you have to vote this way. And more people in the black community are waking up and realizing that they do not have to vote the way that Democrats tell them to vote. And guess what? They're still black, even if they don't vote for Joe Biden, despite Biden's declaration that you aren't black unless you vote for him. First Alert Forecast, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. From Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Sunny today, high near 79. 55 tonight for an overnight low. Sunny 81 tomorrow, Wednesday. Sunny with a high near 86. Increasingly, you have, and it's creating panic amongst Democrats, black people that are open to voting for Donald Trump, some openly supporting him. Amber Rose, a celebrity who is a model, artist, singer, and feminist activist, announcing on social media to her 24 million followers that she is supporting Donald Trump. 50 Cent was on Capitol Hill lobbying for something. I don't know exactly what it was, talking to lawmakers of both political parties. And he was asked his thoughts about Donald. Well, primarily, they're trying to get him, who are you going to vote for, sort of a question being asked. I think this was by CBS.
Heading into another election. So have you made a decision about who you're
I'm not sure how to answer that question, to be honest with you.
Have you made a decision?
I haven't.
What do you see as the significance of African American men in this election for both of you?
I see them identifying with Trump.
Why do you say that?
Because they got RICO charges.
All right, so the lawfare thing. Increasingly, we are hearing this, particularly amongst the black community, that they feel as if Donald Trump is sort of one of them, if you will, in their belief that they are unfairly targeted as people in the black community by law enforcement. That this is a monster, if you will, that the Democrats have created that is turning against them in a number of different ways. Now, I'm not arguing that there aren't instances in which people in this country that are African American, that they haven't at times been on the raw end of the deal when it comes to our system, because it's a system filled with people. The idea, however, that the system itself is one in which you've got the number one danger to a black teenager is a white cop, which is a feeling that has been created by the Democrat Party that could not be further from the truth. They have taken what arguably may be a system that is filled with individuals in which you might have some that do not utilize their position in law enforcement in the best way possible. And it may not even be a race thing. I mean, you get bad people in positions sometimes, and they like to use their power, they like to use their authority, and taking what could legitimately be at times a real legitimate issue, but because they're the left, they have blown it up into this monster that doesn't actually exist. I mean, when you have people in Democrat-run cities that genuinely believe the number one danger to their black children are white police officers, you have carried out a very successful disinformation campaign. At the same time that they have done this and made the black community feel as if they are constantly victims of the system itself. And then you target, you use the system to go after Donald Trump. In other words, you actually do what it is that you have worked very hard to convince black people that they are the victim of. And you actually do activate it. You use your power, you use your influence, you use your position to go after someone, in this case for political purposes. And what it is done is you have the Democrats creating that impression amongst the black community, then very transparently using the system to target someone. And yeah, you have people in the black community that go, well, I know what that's like. Donald Trump, he has noted this, that he felt that when it came down to it, there would be some people in that community who feel as if they are targeted by a system that is corrupt, that they are going to potentially identify with him. Now, Democrats tried to claim that that was racist of him to say. The problem is, it was something that was noted during the Clinton years. Clinton was called the first black president. And the reason he was called that is because he was constantly being attacked by the system. He was constantly being attacked by Republicans and Ken Starr. And so they created this environment, and that this was their narrative, the Democrats, that, that Bill Clinton didn't do anything wrong and they're just attacking him and this is the system. And he was called the first black president for those very reasons. So a narrative that they've used in the past in their evaluation of the popularity of Bill Clinton within the black community, now they're claiming that, well, that's a racist approach to take when it comes to Donald Trump. But the fact of the matter is, you have a majority of Americans who recognize that Donald Trump is the victim of targeting in the form of lawfare. And you have a community that has been conditioned to believe that they are the target of that same justice system. And that is something that increasingly those in the black community are saying they relate to. This is yet another one of those. I mean, the irony is, of course, all of these narratives that are created, all of the political attacks that are created by the Democrats are done in order to try to cling to power. And in some ways, it is potentially their undoing. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Quick Draw Gun in Monette. Whether you are wanting to purchase a high-quality firearm that can be a family heirloom or an asset later down the road, or you're wanting to get ahead of a potential ammo shortage, Quick Draw Gun in Monette is the place to go. They're locally owned, family owned, and they are always adding new names and products to their lineup so they can better serve you as a customer. And it doesn't matter if you are a person who grew up with firearms and you're an avid collector, or you are looking to purchase your first ever firearm. The staff down there, they do a phenomenal job getting down to your expertise level and helping you pick the right firearm for you. And of course, they also offer a variety of services as well, including minor gunsmithing, scope mounting, and custom Cerakoting and laser engraving services as well. Now, if it is time to take a trip down there to Monette to visit the shop, it's easy to find. It's just a quick drive down 60. Once you get to Monette, hang a left at the Taco Bell and boom, you're there. And of course, you can find all of the contact information, shop hours, shop address. All of that is going to be housed under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I want to note here before I've got some other audio I want to play. Another category of people that have long, at least in recent history, been a solid source of support for the Democrats is Silicon Valley. That also is switching over. Kraft Ventures co-founder David Sachs joined Kudlow on Friday, telling host Larry Kudlow that a fundraiser he and another Silicon Valley venture capitalist recently held for Trump had tremendous turnout and exceeded expectations. Sachs said, quote, "When we agreed to do the event, we started off, the question was whether we could just raise $5 million. That was the goal because, as you know, the Bay Area is sort of a liberal bastion. We thought that $5 million might be a big lift. So that was their goal, $5 million. They thought, I don't know. They brought in $12 million, over twice what they thought might be too high of an expectation. He said the event was a tremendous turnout, around 100 people in attendance. Quote, "We could not fit one more seat in the place. We were completely sold out." There were protesters outside. He noted the difference in enthusiasm between those that are supportive of Trump versus those that are not. Ask what key issues mattered the most to people in Silicon Valley and could influence which presidential candidate they decided to support. He pointed to the economy. Other issues he identified as important included foreign policy, the border, and lawfare. Increasingly, and polls are showing this as well, what we are finding are people, many of which have been longtime Democrat fundraisers, are coming out in support of Trump because of the lawfare issue. Another very meaningful way in which this attempt, and this is, I think, good news for America, because it is, November is going to really truly decide whether or not we are a country that is going to accept what you see in countries like Venezuela and Iran and Russia, in which you have the political elites that utilize the government, utilize their justice system in order to imprison and to threaten and intimidate political opposition. Or, now that we've seen it fully on display, are we going to say, no, that's not who we are? And it is, I think, positive news that some of these long-term Democrats, people that have traditionally been Democrat and fundraised for Democrats, that are coming out specifically because they are pushing back against the Democrats using our justice system to go after political opposition. That, to me, is a very, very good sign. A hopeful one at that. I'm going to quickly play this audio. I think it's just fantastic. This is audio. Boston Celtics coach Joe Mazzulla, who is a Christian, was asked, and you'll hear the question asked by Yahoo Sports, what he thought about the fact that this is the first time since 1975 that both coaches in the finals are black.
Hey, Joe, Ben School of Yahoo Sports. For the first time since 1975, this is the NBA Finals where you have two black head coaches. Given the plight sometimes of black head coaches in the NBA, do you think this is a significant moment? Do you take pride in this? How do you view this, or do you not see it at all?
I wonder how many of those have been Christian coaches. David Aldridge?
And then they moved on. It was all in the context of skin color, looks, black. And he just doesn't wonder how many Christian. And you heard the dead silence, and the video of it, you see it, he's looking around at the other reporters like, anybody going to answer that question? Anybody bother to ask that question? I love to see that sort of thing. It's just fantastic. Anyway, it's just straight up question. How many of them are Christian? Oh, that's not interesting. That's not relevant. We're not that we don't care about. Content of character stuff. Skin color, that's what's important. Looks. This is what is important. I didn't have a chance to get to it today, but there is a story about the Biden administration charging a surgeon who exposed illegal castration of kids and sex change operations at a Texas children's hospital. And for blowing the whistle on these illegal operations, the Department of Justice is going after him, trying to imprison him for supposedly violating HIPAA. And there's a piece in the Federalist that is part of that is, no one is safe from Biden's weaponized DOJ. And it's noting that, this lack of recognition I think people have. This is not just about getting Trump. This is about imprisoning anyone who pushes back against the Biden administration politically. So more of that tomorrow. I'm Nick Reed. Glenn Beck's next.